Are there any supplements that offer an edge for fat loss?
The modern anorectics like Ozempic and tirzepatide, absolutely. And, you know, for some people, various stimulants, caffeine, a couple of other ones, yohimbine, etc., they have a marginal effect on reducing appetite, improving mental clarity and focus. If they don't interfere with your sleep, you can take them. The problem with stimulants is that you develop a tolerance to them quite quickly. When you're ending the diet, which I'd love to talk about as far as how to transition out, because that's super important. When you're ending a diet and you have to manage your stimulant use again and you maybe come off of them, you get radical rebound hunger. And just, stimulants are just...
because it's suppressing your appetite artificially. Right.
And so you don't want 5 monsters every day anymore. You're like, pull out the monsters and you're like, dude, brownies instead. It's tough. Caffeine is like, you have like a circuit board with a little nail and you're like, giant hammer. And it's like, oh, it hit all the other stuff. So as far as real supplements that just straight up work for fat loss, they kind of don't exist. If you have the yohimbines and the other things, they can kind of add a little bit to the thing.
What's yohimbine?
It's like a stimulant derivative sort of thing, and it has some cool health effects. It burns a little bit of body fat, but this is something that you just don't write home about. It's this teeny little thing. So bodybuilders will take it. They'll take ephedra. They'll take other stuff, and it all works. It just works a bit, and it has quite a few side effects. And the stuff that doesn't have a ton of side effects generally just doesn't tend to work that much. Big Pharma won this one. The ultimate supplement, quote unquote, to a fat loss diet are the modern, what they're called really is anorectics. I like to take people away from terming them GLP agonists or GLP-1s because it's already not true for tirzepatide. It's GLP-1 plus GIP, and for retatrutide is glucagon as well. And so anorectic is the general term for drugs that make you less hungry, and that's how they work.
Anorectic.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. And so modern anorectics, because there used to be some back in the day that were also stimulant based, like
Fen-Phen,
Sibutramine.
That
fucked up a lot of people. Sibutramine was quite healthy, but the regulatory agencies didn't think it was quite as safe as they wanted. It probably was, but they got wigged out about it. It's a stimulant derivative, so it's got some side effects, dry mouth, etc. The trade name for the drug was Meridia. It was a cool drug, not approved for use in the United States, I don't believe. It's approved for use in Europe. Of course, you cavalier Europeans like, oh, we'll take anything. But the modern day anorectics, currently the GLP and etc. Group of drugs, they're just fucking good. Now, do they have side effects? Yes. Can they be managed with how you do your diet? Almost completely. Are they not for some people? Totally. Do they have really tiny downside risks in some cases? Yeah, they do. Every drug has that. But are they just, as a general rule, insanely effective and make dieting 50 trillion times easier? Yeah.
So do fat burners not work?
Fat burners work, but they burn this little bunch of fat and they just make you super anxious and awake at night.
Right.
Most fat burners are stimulant based. Non-stimulant fat burners are kind of a joke at the current time. And so, it's just like how much caffeine can you cram into an energy drink is most of the question with fat burners. A pill you can take that doesn't wig you out, that burns fat in enough of a margin that you can tell in a realistic diet is just not around.
Okay. Given this relatively easy to follow format that you've explained about how much food you're putting in your face, about where you should portion this, prioritizing protein, looking at how much exercise that you're doing, tracking steps, trying to keep it consistent, why do so many people fail at diets?
Yeah, it's a good question. Jeez. I think, as we've seen with the anorectic drug trials, semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide, other drugs, when you take away, or better put, reduce substantially hunger drive, almost everyone loses a bunch of weight. It's also precisely the reason that we've seen obesity trend up, is because there's tons of super palatable, super tasty food. Over historical time, if you reverse that, like people in the 1950s probably didn't have any more average willpower than people today. We like to romanticize and think they did, but they probably didn't. And so most people fail diets because evolution designed most of us to fail diets.
Hmm.
It's a similar question to if you take a bunch of 22-year-old dudes and you put them into a controlled facility. I don't want to say prison, but a scientific research facility. And you tell them no wanking. That's what you guys call it in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And you stretch it out for 60 days. You're going to ask a real weird question. How come everyone started wanking after a while? They failed. Because evolution designed you that at some level, sex drive is just going to turn you fucking wild and you're going to do the thing. Same idea for diets. I don't think there's a necessary extra level of causal inference we have to make. I think most of the reason people screw up on diets is because food tastes really goddamn good and they get fucking hungry and they're like, fuck this. Now, you can architect your preparation for a diet to try to minimize that. Being around people in your family and friends group that are at least neutral and hopefully supportive of your diet versus actively trying to be like, come on, have a French fry. That's terrible. Getting rid of the junk food in your home and eat out less or have places you eat out where you know exactly what to order and it works part of your diet. A big one is not having Napoleonic goals. If I say to myself, in 1 month, I'm going to lose 30 pounds of fat, I'm almost certainly going to fail. And it wasn't any crazy explanation other than the fact that, like, I should have made it 15 pounds and made the goal 3 months. The magnitude of depravity and hunger per any day is now like 6 times less. And then every day is sustainable. I'm not trying to crash and burn. So a ton of people crash and burn. Another reason, and it all threads into eventually they just eat junk food and stop. So it's all the core reason is still the tasty food. Another reason is a lot of people actually do well with diets. The vast majority of people will lose weight on diets. The vast majority of those people will regain it back. Why? Because most people don't have a habitual reference intake pattern, a diet they do that allows them to stay healthy and lean and isn't radically different from what they do normally. For example, a lot of the folks that have used RP Diet Coach app, it is you eat 3 to 6 meals a day and it portions it out into proteins and healthy carbs and healthy fats. People will eat it and be like, this is the diet I'm losing to lose fat. Like, I'm just going to do it. I don't give a shit how hard it is. But after they're done with it, and this happens even more in our private coaching, they're like, wait, if I just add a bit of junk food to this every now and again, this is a maintenance plan. I know how to eat now. I know how to put together meals of protein and carbs and healthy fats. I know what I'm doing at the grocery store. I can even eat out and I know how to make core good meals. But a lot of people who fail diets, their idea of a diet is cabbage soup and protein shakes. And then when the diet ends, they go back to what? What are their habits? The same shit they used to do. What gets you the same results you used to have? Same shit you used to do. They go back into the world. They start doing Taco Bell again. They blow up. Do the diet works. Stop the diet reverts. If you can, from the diet, take some healthy habits that aren't just psychotic things you only do on a diet, knowing how to build a meal of a core of protein, healthy protein, veggies, knowing how to time it, getting into the habit of eating every 4 to 6 hours, knowing how to shop at the store, knowing what to order at a restaurant, practicing saying, you know what, I don't want 18 trillion pounds of French fries. If you do that on a diet, all you need to do is layer in a bit of bullshit and junk food every now and again, and now that's your maintenance. You constrict it a little bit if you're gaining weight again. You loosen it up if you lose weight again, and then you can for years and indefinitely maintain that new healthy lean you. But many people who do diets, they never build the habits to begin with, which is one of the reasons why fad dieting is so terrible. This new weird stuff you're never going to sustain. Listen, here's the thing. Keto, carnivore, great ways to diet. And for many people like Joe Rogan, a lifestyle. Awesome. But for many people, they're like, I'm doing keto to lose weight. Okay, so you're just never going to eat a lot of breads? Because if you told Joe Rogan, for example, like, hey man, so you're really good with just like having an occasional bread and pasta every few months when you're on business trips with people, and otherwise you just like stick to your elk or whatever. He's like, yep, I love it. Frank down the street, he's going to be like, well, no, I do the keto diet, then I lose weight. What are you going to do after that, Frank? Elk all the time? He's like, oh, fuck that. I'm going to Olive Garden. I'm like, guess who's going to come back then? Old fat Frank again. It's the lack of those core abilities to have that habit of good eating, and the fad diets do not help that at all.
If appetite and hunger are primarily to blame, is there anything that you can do to mitigate or help reduce hunger?
Yes, anorectic drugs.
Apart from those?
There's a bunch of stuff. eating a diet higher in protein tends to work well. Not going a very long time without food until you're psychotically hungry. You show up to Whole Foods to buy your groceries for that day or a few days, and you're like, you ate 2 hours ago, you'll buy all the stuff you need to. You go to Whole Foods after 6 hours not eating, you're going right to the vegan junk food section and putting whatever the fuck in your cart. So a meal schedule is a really good thing. Having a diet high in fibrous vegetables and really filling foods, tons of veggies, tons of fruits, reducing the overall palatability. I don't mean eating total shit like space gruel, then you go to space jail to give you the gruel, and the slug always wants more, but you're like, fuck, take mine, this is awful. Hopefully he's not your roommate, but your jail celly, right? And so sometimes just not trying to make your food taste the best it's ever going to taste, because some people do this, and this is really common. They'll go, okay, I'm on a diet. I know my macros. I know my calories. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take these minimal macros I have in this meal. I'm going to try to make it taste as good as possible. I can't use mayo, but I'm going to sprinkle all this fucking shit on it. That meal just leaves you really hungry afterwards. You look forward to eating it so much, it screws up your day entirely. So
it's kind of counterintuitive.
Very Chris, it's not kind of counterintuitive. It's completely counterintuitive. Intuition is literally designed for an ancestral evolutionary environment where like tasty shit is a good thing to eat because you're going to die. Nothing in this world that the ancestral peoples from whom we evolved had ever fucks with a double cheeseburger from McDonald's. Paradise. It doesn't taste like anything they've ever seen because it's engineered to be the best tasting thing anyone's ever tried. It's an unstoppable thing. You ever see those like survival wilderness shows where they kill an animal and they like throw it on the grill and they're like, yep, tastes pretty good. No, it doesn't. You don't have salt on it. Are you out of your mind? You can only eat grilled meat for so long until like, is there anything else? So ultra super tasty food, back away from it a little bit. Another one is make sure you're nice and hydrated, have a little bit of fluid before you start a meal, and it fills up your stomach a bit. It's a huge hack. It can help some people a little bit. Another one is if you tell yourself, look, I'm at a party and I'm going to be eating normal people food. Try to fill up on proteins and veggies first, and then maybe have a cookie or two. But if you go fucking right for the cookies, man,
game over.
I mean, yeah, sure. Well, if it depends on what game you're playing. If your gold coins are calories, shit, you just broke all the level records, right? So stuff like that, these kinds of pieces of advice, they're not revolutionary, but when you're hungry and you're dieting, all of them can help to a considerable degree.
In other news, this episode is brought to you by 8 Sleep. I have been using my 8 Sleep mattress for years, and I literally cannot imagine life without it. Having a actively cooled and heated mattress is the game changer. Now they've launched their newest generation pod, the Pod 4 Ultra. The Pod 4 Ultra can cool down each side of the bed up to 20 degrees below room temperature, keeping you and your partner cool. And for those of you who snore heavily, it can detect your snoring and automatically lift your head a few degrees to improve your airflow and stop it. This is year 3000 stuff. It cools, it heats, it elevates, and it is clinically proven to give you up to 1 hour more of quality sleep every night. Best of all, they ship to the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Europe, and Australia. You can get $350 off the Pod 4 Ultra by going to the link in the show notes below or heading to 8sleep.com/modernwisdom using the code modernwisdom at checkout. That's EIGHTSLEEP.com/modernwisdom and modernwisdom at checkout. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip with Mike, you will love the full-length 2.5-hour episode where we break down everything you need to know about fat loss right here. Go on. That's it.